Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships. Everybody, we are back with the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. So today we're on part 2 of how to recognize players and gold diggers. And we're focusing our energy tonight on the gold digger, which, Jorge, what would you say a layman's definition is for a gold digger?
I mean, basically somebody who's just after your pockets and after your finances. And that, comes in all shapes and sizes. So that can come in any gender and any individual. So it's important to pay close attention because there's definitely people out there who will take advantage of you and your resources and your funds.
Right. And just like our last episode focused on players, I think so often we've attributed certain terms in the past to certain genders, but like you're saying, people are very gender fluid. We've got a whole spectrum of relationship types and sexuality, representation out there. So this episode isn't just about the traditional sense of women being gold diggers, but anybody who is after your finances could fall into this category. And we were talking before the show about the Netflix show, The Tinder Swindler, which you and I both watched. And if you have not seen that, everybody, I do recommend it. It was really eye-opening that in this day and age, there are people who could be talked out of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of credit and home financing and liquid assets. I was so stupefied, Jorge, about the women on the show who did not see what this guy's game was like. And I know that sounds judgmental, so let me say, sitting back, just like a guy watching a game or somebody watching a ball game, you can be a quarterback, armchair quarterback, looking at the game with the whole screen up. But you got like 200, 300 something pound men coming at you, and you got to throw the ball to the right person without even knowing that they've run their route correctly. That can be a bit challenging. But looking at this show, of course, from the viewpoint of, we kind of see it as it's playing out, but these women were up close and personal with this man. Like, how, I'm thinking to myself, how did you fall for this? Like, this shit is crazy. Why would you even think that he was not swindling you or second guess him? But like so many, he had like what, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 women he had, gotten into the game, and he was using one lady's money to pay for the next woman that was up in the queue that he was ready to swindle. I mean, it was such a sophisticated game. It's like, why don't you just get a job? You're so smart at money. Why would you try to do this to people? It was crazy.
I got one word for you. Love.
You know what?
Love will make you do some crazy stuff. I'm telling you, I've seen it with men. I've seen it with women. When you're in love, you can't reason with people in love. When you try to reason with somebody who's in love with someone, it's like trying to talk to a drunk person.
Well, is it really love, or you just high?
It's extremely hard to get through somebody.
Yeah,
Listen,
you're right.
let's not even go too far. I'm gonna give you a quick story. So, the last official relationship that I was in, it was August of 2019 is when it ended. So during that time that I was with this lady for about 4 months or so, I had a couple of close friends who told me, Jorge, that girl is not for you. Straight up, they told me, two of my best friends. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, she's cool. I even brought her to the family. Things were going well. And they were damn right. They were spot on.
So what were the signs that they saw? That you
I mean,
didn't.
so they were just like, you know what? I don't think that's the kind of girl that you want to settle down with. That's what they told me. And then my other guy, my other buddy who's dating my cousin, he said, That girl looks like she's very bougie and very money driven. He literally told me that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nah, man, she's a single mom, and she struggles, and you know and that's what he told me. And I was just like, nah, I didn't pay attention to it until obviously, you know, then I had to tell him, hey, you guys were right. But that's the thing, right? Like we keep hammering that point that
Mm-hmm.
when we are infatuated, when we are mesmerized, boy,
Yeah.
that common sense just goes out straight out the
Like,
window.
high on all of those endorphins, like we keep talking
Hmm.
about the chemical reactions that are going on, that really, before you allow that stuff to settle down and give yourself time to, like, see if it's going to last past the 4 or 5 month 6 month phase. We're already making major decisions. I think if anything comes out of these shows, part 1 and 2, and this whole podcast, is give yourself enough time to look at the lay of the land before jumping into a quick, impulsive, sexually laced decision. Because for some people, they're targeting people who really don't have what they think they have. There's so many people now, you can rent like all sorts of luxury cars on Turo and you know different places now where you can get like an affordable rental to look apart on IG or Facebook or whatever your social is. And then you get to, know the person after a while, and you realize like they probably don't even own a car. So sometimes the swindler gets swindled a little bit, trying
Right,
to put that stuff in
right.
somebody. And you really haven't given yourself enough time to, get to know them. I don't know. It's just, it feels kind of crazy to me. But I know in our first episode, um, you talked about a young lady that you had met online. Do you remember this story where, you know, they wanted to know, like, were you going to pay to date her,
Oh
basically?
yeah,
Or
she
you
was
remember?
she was definitely on some sugar baby status. And listen, I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody who gets down like that, because that's their business.
Right. You don't
Uh,
lie, of course.
however, where I didn't like her style was, we went out on 3 dates,
Hmm.
and we talked a lot even before those 3 dates. And before that, she never mentioned any of that as far as looking for a sugar daddy, or that she had intentions of trying to be a sugar baby. So that's where I had an issue, because I'm like,
Yeah,
you
it's just
basically,
dishonest.
yeah, that you were being deceitful, or you were trying to
Hmm.
get me with some bait and hook switch, ordeal. And that's where I had an issue with her approach, because if she would have told me from the very beginning, the first conversations, hey, Jorge, I'm looking to be your sugar baby, I would have been like, yeah, I don't get down with that. Good luck, or that's not my style.
Which is probably why she lied, because I'm like, if that's what your game is, I need to get you emotionally hooked. I mean, it's almost like a sales game. I mean, it's really like a
Yep.
sales game. Like, let me show you all the reasons why I'm perfect for you. Let me show
Hmm.
you all the reasons why you ought to want to be with me. And then I get you hooked, and you'll do whatever it takes to keep me around, which
Yep.
is pay for this, pay for that, pay for this, pay for that. And again, I'm like you, I'm not throwing shade at anybody that you feel like that's your style of dating or that's your philosophy, even. Like, I have friends literally who have said, they're looking for a man who, pays for every date, that should be the expectation, that, um, you know, for, for them, they do want, you know, to be treated like a lady. Um, they want to be able to be in their feminine energy. We've talked a little bit about that, where, they feel like, hold the door for me, pay for the tab, take me to places that I want to go, all of that. But when I think about it, it's like, well, what is it that you're offering in return?
Hmm.
Just because I guess I grew up in more of a feminist household. I'm not gonna say feminist, but my parents had worked out who was going to do what. but it was sort of a meeting of the minds, like the way things were divvied out with my parents. I really didn't see my mom, as so-called a traditional woman. She had some of those aspects, like she would cook, of course. My dad took care of the outside, but my mom had a job. She worked just like my dad did. They both contributed to the household. They both, worked together to build something as a family unit. So I just was not really used to that. And I guess my expectation in dating, it's great. The man pays for the meals or whatever. That's cool. But I always wanted to treat because I felt like, yeah, men do a lot. I can remember, and this is a true story. We're sharing things from our past, but I was so okay with being good to uh, one of my exes that I got him a ring. Like, I didn't feel like it was wrong for me to buy him uh jewelry or whatever. And because a lot of men don't really get jewelry from women except for a wedding ring, right? Maybe watches or something. I don't know.
Right.
Even though old people used to say you shouldn't buy watch for a man, he's only looking at the time to see when he can leave you. Super superstition like that. But yeah, buy too many watches. The ones I did get or give away, they did end up, those relationships did end up dissolving. But I don't know. I just like, shouldn't we be equally yoked? Like, and what does that mean in today's world? Does that mean that the man pays and the woman is his eye candy, or do you play the part of I just will be seen and not heard? You know, I don't know. It's so confusing for me sometimes, Poppy. It's so confusing for
It's
me.
it's a slippery slope.
And is
I
that
do.
prostitution? You know,
What's that?
if the man pays for everything, like, do you owe him sex? Do you owe him time? Should you put everything down when he calls? Like, I guess I always think about what's fair or what's reasonable. I guess that's why sometimes I'm still dating, I suppose, because I'm still
Yeah.
kind of confused.
Listen, yeah, it does make it challenging, especially with the way the dating world has just evolved and just become, a completely different thing and just a big ass conundrum. But I do want to get into some red flags that we all need to be mindful of because these are
Hmm.
characteristics that anybody can have. For example, if you meet someone and they are very interested in what you do, or they
Hmm.
become a lot more interested in you after they find out what you do as far as for a living, uh, keep that in the back of your mind.
Hmm.
Because listen, there is nothing wrong with talking about work and telling someone what you do. But if this person seems so intrigued in finding out what you do and what you make, that's a red flag.
Hmm.
Um, Oftentimes people who are gold diggers, they love to encourage lavish spending with your money. So also be mindful of that. um
Hmm.
Also, let's say if this person isn't working for long periods of time and they're always trying to lean on you for everything, that's a red flag. Because
Right.
um listen, I get it. People go on hard times. I've been, laid off before. I've lost my job before. But I still stayed on the hustle and tried to look for work. But if you got somebody who's, 30 something, 40 something years old and still trying to be a rapper, and he wants you to hold him down while he's trying to pursue this dream, like, at what point do you look in the mirror and be like, okay, look, man, you're not going to be the next Eminem. So you need to go find yourself a real damn job because I can't keep holding you down and expect to, to get where I want to be if you're not on my level.
Right. Right. And I think again, when you're looking at like the old biblical term equally yoked, it meant that when somebody was plowing, they had the oxen. You shouldn't have one big oxen and one little one, or you know, be so far apart in size and strength that it makes it harder to plow the land. So in a relationship, you know, should you have somebody who is either so high up the ladder as far as power positions or money or education, even that your partner feels out of place, or
Mm.
even in friendship, not just even about dating relationships, but even in friendships, can you really have people who are so far apart in points of view, politically or religiously, or even about food, like if somebody's a meat eater and somebody's a vegetarian, and they can't come to terms with the ethical practice of eating meat or not. Can you really stay in a relationship with someone who you don't have enough in common with them that it feels comfortable being in their presence, or that you feel like you've got to ride on them like a fungus on a tree in order to make it? You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's emotional, financial, or physical. I mean, really, it's funny sounding, but like in the end, like, what are you really looking for? And I'm telling you, I have seen enough Tinder profiles, people, Hinge, Facebook dating. We're looking for sponsors. We've seen enough, I'm sure, between the two of us, that you've
Hmm.
seen all sorts of shit on there that people are saying and doing. And it's just like, really? Really? Like, I'm always a little suspect when younger men, um, hit like on my profile, because
Oh,
I have
sugar
my
mama.
age on there.
Sugar mama.
Yeah. I'm like, boy, bye. I got kids your age. No. But, then I've met some younger men who are like, I'm a grown man and I handle my business. I take care of, what I need to take care of. And I don't have any problem with older women. I'm not looking for you to take care of me. I'm looking for somebody that's interesting and, talking like a grown man. And I'm like,
That's refreshing.
right. So it's just like, again, equally yoked again doesn't mean that you have to be the exact same age, that there can't be an age gap, but there's got to be enough commonality between you that you can both feel comfortable with whatever's going to go down. And it's
So
consistent.
I will tell you this. So I have a buddy, a good friend of mine that I grew up with, and this guy is part owner of a $1 million company.
Hmm.
And if you did not know what he does, and if you saw him, you would not know that this man is loaded and wealthy.
Hmm.
And I asked him, like, well, why do you like to keep, low profile? He's like, oh, that's just my style. And he told me when he dates, he rarely, very seldomly tells women what he does.
Hmm.
And I told him, well, why is that you do that? And he said, because I want to know that they're interested in me for me,
Right.
not because of my money. And I'm telling you, if you see this guy, he looks like just a regular guy. You would not think that this man is sitting on a gold mine. Now,
Right.
now,
And
now
that's
don't get it
fair,
twisted.
but do you
He
think that's
worked
like
hard. He
lying?
worked his
Do you
ass
feel
off.
like lying though?
What's that?
Do you feel like it's a lie to withhold what he really does, from
I feel like he
women?
just like he says that he feels that when the time is appropriate, he
Hmm.
will open up, but early on, he does not like to discuss too much details of what work he does with women because he doesn't want to be targeted.
Hmm.
And he wants to feel that whoever is pursuing him or interested in him is genuinely interested in him because of the individual, not because of the potential bank account earnings.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Well,
you know what?
that's fine.
That's an
Be-
interesting
wait,
approach.
yeah.
But I understand where he's coming from because nowadays, like, you have to be careful. I had another friend of mine mention to me. He said, Jorge, make sure that you guard your heart like you guard your money. You
Mm,
shouldn't trust your money with anyone. and you shouldn't be trusting your heart with anybody. And I was like, damn, that's deep.
Yeah. Oh, and not just right up front, even though I think if you're an open individual who, again, if you're not going to enter the dating pool full of cynicism and, looking for the other shoe to drop, things to go wrong, whatever. If you're really trying to give it a chance, as much of you as you can put to the table, I think is important because, we talk about not sending a representative all the time, but then, people are coming out, um, playing games, money grubbing, whatever, manipulating and all that. So it does make it feel like, how do I let my guard down in the midst of all this? But I think there are some cues, when you're looking at profiles. If you're a guy who's pretty modest or who, um, you're not out going to the Met, you're not spending tickets every week for Panther games, or, you're not really like a baller like that, let's say,
Right.
then you probably don't want to pick the girl who's showing you, Christian Louboutins on her profile pic. She's wearing the Gucci belts and, everything is a name brand on every picture that she has, or she's looking like she's out on yachts and a vacation picture in every shot. And I think like sometimes we don't read the room with with just even going on the profiles or talking to somebody out somewhere. A lot of times, we, like you said, we get kind of mesmerized,
Yep.
charmed or whatever, but then we're not really listening to what they're saying. I think a lot of times people are hearing what's being said, but in the back of our mind, we're playing the tape. Oh, I know if they were with me though, I would be enough. Oh, if I were to be with them, I know I could change that about him because I show him so much love. He'd be so devoted. He wouldn't want to live that life anymore, or do those things anymore, or be with that woman anymore, or whatever. And I'm just like, we got to stop singing these songs to ourselves and
Yep.
romanticizing the facts in front of us. Like, see what's in front of your face. And it's one thing a person completely changes who they are and hides things from you, knowing that they are full of shit. But I'm like, when you see these pictures, sometimes I'm just like, no, I know that I'm going to be honest. And it's going to sound maybe judgmental. I don't know. But at this point in my life, I'm open to being honest. If I see a profile with a man who has a ton of misspelled words, I'm going to know that we're not equally yoked because I was a former teacher and principal. Education matters to me.
Yep.
And I know I will have a difficult time with somebody who misuses words or, and I'm not saying just like once or twice every once in a while, but I'm talking about in your whole conversation with me, we really can't talk about books. Like somebody who says all they do all day is watch TV and plays video games. I'm not going to be equally yoked with that person because that's not what I do all day long. Those things don't interest me enough. And I do believe you should have your own interests. But if that's all you've got on your profile, I wouldn't pick that person, because that's
Yeah,
not
that's not a
who
good fit for
I
your
am.
style and your intellect. They're not gonna be
That
able to
part.
keep up. They're not gonna be able to satisfy you mentally.
Right. And so I think sometimes people don't really pay attention. That's why you should really read those profile those profiles, and people that don't have one. I don't really pick those people because I'm like, I don't know anything about you other than what you look like. I mean, it's
Yep.
so superficial. What am I gonna do? Just look at you all night? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too picky. I don't know, Poppy,
I
but
mean, those are fair statements. That can kind of give you clues to what you might run into. Um, Also, like another thing when it comes to this, one of the behaviors that tends to be pretty common with gold diggers is entitlement.
yeah,
Entitlement is a big, big thing. So if you start to see entitlement early on, whether it be through conversation, through phone calls, or even on the first or second date, run, run. Because You
Yeah, and
know,
people
the
say I deserve.
entitlement tends to go together with gold diggers, and oftentimes you'll have like people who are this blunt with it. They'll even threaten you that, hey, I'm going to end the relationship if you don't give me this, or if you don't buy me this. Then that is as transparent as it's going to get.
Right, right. And especially, and here's the thing, like for guys who are in relationships and you show up for your woman mentally, or your partner, let me say, because it could be any type of relationship, of course. But if you show up for your partner mentally, emotionally, um if you are trying to make spiritual connections, if you are um thoughtful, if you do thoughtful things, and it doesn't always take money for that, but if I know that you enjoy being out in nature and I decide I want to do a date, let's go kayaking, or let's go walking in this new park, or do something like that, then that means that even though I might not be into that, it's something you enjoy. I wanted to take part in it because it's something I know you like. Doesn't cost any real money for that. But if all
Yep.
you get for your effort is, I don't know why you took me here, I would rather be at a restaurant in South Park, or I don't know why people that tear down your thoughtfulness, that's another sign to me of a
Mm.
person that is a gold digger. Because a man who really wants to engage with you and not just buy you things all the time, and I sound like I'm fussing at the women, I'm not really trying to do that. But if you're a gold digger, you can take it how you would like. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of men have gone rogue because they've been hurt by people who took advantage of their niceness, and ladies too, let me say that, who took advantage of their niceness and left them feeling nothing but used and unappreciated. And I feel like sometimes I've come across some of those men who want you now to prove to them that you're not a gold digger, or prove to them that you have so much to offer them before they ever show you their hand, because they've been hurt by somebody who all they did was line them up to see how much they could get out the cash app.
You know what?
It-
So I've had a few buddies who, they're pretty well off, and I've told them, look, when you're out here dating, don't. I have told them this. Look, I don't think going to Ruth's Chris on the first date is a good idea,
right, because
and
you
and
said,
the reason for that is,
mm-hmm,
number one, once you take her to Ruth's Chris, where the hell are you going to take her on the second date?
right,
Like,
a picnic.
that's the cream of the
Oh my
crop.
god.
So anywhere you go, she gonna be like, "We going where?"
Right.
so, so I'm like, "Look, you gotta earn your stripes with me. Like, don't get me wrong, I love to eat good. I think you see that. But within my means, I certainly don't bite off more than I can chew. But I definitely wouldn't start right off the bat somewhere super luxurious and fancy, because you're already kind of setting off the wrong vibe and expectation. And I want this woman, to appreciate me for who I am, not for, hey,
What you can
what
do.
fancy place can this man take me to?
Well, maybe that is a good maybe that's a good tactic to see, like, if I take you out somewhere nice the first time and we go somewhere, you know, a little more down to earth and uh, earthy, or I say I'm going to cook for you, you know, it maybe that kind of helps to see really where that person is coming from, honestly, because if you set that expectation that high the first time and she complains about the second place that you decide you're going to go, if it's a picnic in the yard or cooking out, cooking at a house, that really could be very strategic,
Mm,
honestly. I'm just saying, you
playing
know,
devil's advocate.
I want, yeah, like, I feel like how appreciative is a person if I do this for you, but then we go here, do you complain about, oh, you took me to such and such the first time? Like I'll say, I met a really, really nice guy. He took me to this amazing restaurant, rooftop restaurant, and that was, the first date, which that was kind of unexpected. We really met for drinks and ended up having such really good conversation and everything, we decided to prolong the date and go out to eat. And because usually, like on a first date, because if the chemistry isn't that great, kind of like we did, if the
You're
chemistry,
right.
right, we can leave, no harm, no foul, whatever. But um, the second date, we decided to do something a little, a little more down to earth or whatever. But to me, the second date was just as good or better because we really got a chance to connect. And I got to see him in a more relaxed setting. It wasn't such, it wasn't a rooftop or anything like that. It was like a patio date. And I don't even think he ordered anything but something to drink. And I got like a salad because I didn't want a lot, but I was a little hungry. So I didn't act like I wasn't. But I was still just as thankful for, you know, and he picked up the tab both times, but I still felt grateful about, thank you. Um, I don't know. I just gratitude goes such a long way to me. Um, and I want the opportunity to be able to say, you know what, this has been great. It's been such a good vibe. For me, I'll either number one offer to cook, or number two, you know what, I'll pick up the tab for drinks tonight or something like that. Because
Yep.
I'm just after every couple of dates, I'm like, give a man a break. I mean, look, if you're really not just about the money. I don't know. For some reason, I don't know why I feel like I have to prove that, but I've been so independent most of my life. I don't want anybody to think, I don't want anybody to think you can buy me either. Like, I guess that's the opposite side of, somebody being a gold digger. It's not that I'm so independent, I don't need a man, but it is, I don't want you to feel like you can use your money to do whatever you want or say whatever you want with me.
And let me be clear. I believe that if you are interested in someone and you are trying to sweep somebody off their feet, then you want to do nice things and nice gestures, and I am all for that. But that should be something that organically manifests.
Right.
Now, I've been out on a couple of dates where I've had women that were asking me to buy them drinks while we're out. And I said no. And don't get
Mhm.
me wrong, not because I don't mind buying you a drink, but I want to do it on my own accord,
Mhm.
not because you are asking me, because then to me that either shows me that, hey, you're just trying to get free drinks off me for the night, or you're just trying to get fucked up and you're not trying to get to know me. Either or, it's
It's
not a
still a
good
bad
look.
look. Yeah, bad look.
It's a
I
bad
agree.
look. And you already know I don't drink a lot, so that's not really my vibe.
Right.
So that was a big turnoff for me. And that was probably the worst date that I had with one of them where I just left her because of her conduct and because I
Mhm.
felt like she was literally just trying to squeeze my wallet and not interested in really getting to know me. So I left her.
Wow.
And that was a big
Yeah.
turnoff for me because don't get me wrong, if a woman is appreciative and I enjoy her company, I
Mhm.
don't mind spoiling. I don't mind doing nice things, but it's got to feel natural. But if you start
Right.
asking for it or expecting it, that to me is a big turnoff. And I've talked to women who say, "Yeah, this guy, he would take me to concerts or he would take me out to dinner, but I had no romantic interest in this guy."
Mhm.
But I know that a lot of these guys, they did, but they were like, "Hey, he's giving me free shit, so why am I going to say no?"
Yeah, and I feel like that's using a person. Like, I really can't. My conscience won't allow me to play a guy like that. I'm like, it's one thing if a guy knows that you're not romantically interested, but you still want to hang out as friends, and he's like, "Hey, I got these tickets to this concert. I really don't want to go by myself. Would you like to go? I know we're not together or anything like that, but we're good friends. I'd love for you to come." I would say yes to that because I feel like no strings attached. He knows that I'm not interested like that, like beyond friends. And I don't feel like I'm using somebody who's in the know. But if I'm, like putting out false promises or false hope to somebody, I don't think that that leads to good karma. You reap what you sow, and that who might really care about you, you can look to have somebody that you care about possibly doing you the same way eventually. And I just don't want that. I don't want that hanging on my conscience, hurting somebody unnecessarily,
And
especially if
listen,
it's gonna come
and
out.
that
I'll find
I
somebody you fit in and dump them.
I talk to people all the time, man, that part of the issue with society as a whole nowadays is that whenever somebody does something nice for someone, they do it, but then they're sticking their hand out expecting something in return.
Right,
And that's part of the problem, right? Like a guy takes you out to a nice dinner and now he's expecting something.
right.
Instead of just be like, hey, you know what? I really wanted to see what you were about. I wanted to enjoy your company. I wanted to get to know you and find out who you are as a woman. See,
Hmm.
that's a different approach then. But if a guy is single is just saying, "Hey, I want to take you out to dinner because you're going to sleep with me tonight," then that's just a completely different vibe, and
Right.
I ain't about that. So that's the thing is that in society nowadays is that people will do nice things, but they do nice things with the expectation of something in return, and it's
Thanks.
unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, and I think that might be a part of the reason that I'm not saying men have caused gold diggers, but we've lived in a society that has set women up to do what it takes to survive, especially as we don't have a you know traditional nuclear families like we used to. Women make less. We know that to be a true statement. We're still trying to get paid dollar for dollar for the same jobs and sometimes more education than men. Um, so women are doing more, oftentimes making less. And then, you throw children in the mix with single mom families. And there's this whole survival brain takes over. You know how I'm about my brain research. I'm like, when you're in survival brain, that's the amygdala. That's the base of your spine, and that or at the base of your neck, and that is exactly the part of your brain that is reptile brain. That's like a primitive brain where it's all about survival and doing what it takes to live. And so people are making decisions out of fear of what's going to happen to me if I don't find somebody to protect me or help me or do this for me. What if I don't find somebody to love me? What if I'm alone and lonely for the rest of my life? I think there's so many reasons why we now have players. I'm afraid I'll get hurt. Gold diggers. I'm afraid,
Mhm.
out here in the cold. Look at all, there's like what, 10 women to every man or some awful statistic like that. So you feel like there's all this competition.
Right.
How am I going to make it out here? And it's just like, it's so crazy that that is what is driving us and not love. Like fear is driving us in our decision making, not love. And it's such a sad state of affairs sometimes, but I'm ever hopeful. Haven't given up on myself or the fact that I think, whatever that elusive it is, that it can be found. But I think, the shows like this, we're trying to help people at least navigate what some of the potholes are on the way to it.
Absolutely. So just to recap and to finalize the conversation, if you have someone who's taken a huge affinity of what you do and your finances and
Mhm.
what your family's wealth looks like, run. Run far, because that is not how you genuinely get to know somebody, by getting to know their wealth and their
Oh,
pockets. That
right.
is
Yeah.
not the right approach. And trust your gut feeling, because your gut feeling will tell you, you know what, like this guy seems like he's after something else more than just my heart. And if that's the
Yeah.
case, you don't need that. There's plenty of people out there that will appreciate you for who you are, instead of trying to buy love. And for men too, there's a lot of men that bring some of this stuff on themselves because they start spoiling and throwing all this money on these women early on. So then they're like, hey, I need you to do this for the whole relationship now.
Right. Right. And
So
if you're
as fellas, you got
right,
to be smart and be
it,
like, hey, look, I'm a spoiler. I'm gonna treat you good. I'm gonna treat you like a queen, but you got to earn this.
well,
Show me that you love me. Show me that you care, and
some of
show me
the
that you genuinely want to connect with me.
right, but I'm more that, like, I don't, because I think the whole gold digger prospect is about that whole transactional. I even use the words like earn, make me feel some type of way in a relationship. Like things are unconditional or we're in a different type of situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you mean as far as I want to do. Let's be reciprocal. Can it be? It doesn't have to be the same to be the to be equal effort on both sides. But if a man is throwing all that money at a woman in the first place, here's my thing. What do you have to hide that you dazzle me and I can't get the real you up front?
Yeah, that's deep.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
mad at me like I'm, in Vegas or something and got all these bright lights, but is it a mirage? Because there's nothing behind the money. Is there anything behind the gifts? Like, what are you really doing when you don't even know me well enough to give me that type of treatment yet? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, absolutely. And listen,
wait, but like, cautious.
I wholeheartedly believe that the whole buying love, you may feel good for a little bit. It may feel great for a little bit, but eventually you're going to realize that you are not completely fulfilled,
Right.
because you're going to feel an emptiness once you get tired of that little lavish life and the gifts and the gift showering. You're going to be like, okay, but he is not connecting with me. He doesn't really know me as a woman, as a person. All
Mhm.
he sees is a trophy wife.
That part.
So, on that note,
Mm.
a great conversation. I hope a lot of people are careful and listen. Keep your piggy bank tight.
Listen, absolutely. And with that, everybody, thank you for joining us again tonight. And we'll be back with more great topics to help you in your relationship cycle.
Buenas noches, good people. Thanks for joining us today on the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.